we are still mostly testing this thing out. Right now I am looking at the multi-stream. I have no viewers, so it's not exactly a uh, high pressure situation here. Oh, look at that. Looks much better. Dark green. Okay, let's see if I can turn the brightness down on that a bit. Does that help? Maybe a little. Not as much as I would have hoped. Alright, well, whatever. Alright, so here I am, sitting in the dark, having a wonderful time, talking to myself. Let's see if anything is actually showing up on the Facebook page. Doesn't really look like it. Oh, wow. That is cool. It just automatically does subtitles. That is so freaking cool. Hmm. I don't think that did what I wanted it to. Nope, just made a second one. All right. Share to your story. All right, hold on here. Let's look at this. AR for writers. Share to the page. Let's see. I mean, I love technology, but it is always such a fun challenge to get this all to actually mesh and work together. Let's see. I would like to share this to my main page. All right, we'll see if that worked. Shared to my profile. Looks good. Looks good. All right, we're gonna switch this back over now. That's pretty cool. See why my phone is going. All right. I am managing like 3 different devices right now, which goes great with my zero uh, viewers right now. At least I think it's 0. Like, I have no idea if this thing is counting Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, or which combination thereof. But that's okay. That's okay. All right. We're going to go over here. Good enough. Streamlabs, blah, blah, blah. All right. So the idea here is to explore some of the philosophical implications of writing with AI and the moral implications, but also I think the best way to do that is just to dive right in and actually try, doing some of the work and see what happens. I had this nice green mood lighting that looked really good um, on the page originally, but it only really looks good when I have a dark background here. Although, let's see. So we're in view here, full screen. Nope. Is there a dark mode in Google Docs? I am planning to use Google Docs here because, hold on, because I want to be able to talk into it. Test, test, test. All right. I think for everybody's ease here, we are going to use a larger font size. Let's move that over to here. We've got ChatGPT. I'm going to be doing the rest of it on ChatGPT. Actually, I kind of like this because here I am in human colors, green, generally fleshy colored overall though. And then we switch to where the robot comes in and all of a sudden, boom, I'm in green future robot colors. I like it. Um, It's thematically appropriate. All right. But anyway, the plan here is to use the click to speak functionality that is built into Google Docs. And the reason I want to do that is one, it makes for a much more interesting stream. You guys aren't just watching me type. Not that anyone is here watching me right now, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll build up to that. And in any case, not only will it make it more interesting, but also I think that one of the best applications of ChatGPT is going to be in editing things. So it'll be really cool to see what it does with sort of the disorganized, less formal uh, nonsense that comes out of a human mouth when we're just talking, because we do not talk the way we write. I mean, everybody knows that. Uh, if nothing else, we know that because we can tell when writers that don't know how people talk write dialogue. It's terrible. There's nothing worse than dialogue that looks like something somebody typed, right? All right, giant mug of tea. It actually is about the size of my head. That's not just forced perspective there. All right, let's see. We're gonna move this down, no, up, over. We're gonna move this over a little bit because that should let me, yeah, that'll do. That'll let me view the outline here, which reminds me, stop voice typing, stop listening, resume with, okay. This is not helpful at all. This isn't even remotely helpful. All right, wait, format your document, apply heading. All right. So right now what we're going to be doing is just getting the hang of this voice to, okay, voice to text. Apply heading 1. AI and writing. New line. Backspace. Backspace. Wow, terrible. Not off to a great start there. I think it was Control Shift S. Oh, look at that. It pops right in. AI and writing. New paragraph. The recent emergence of ChatGPT into, you know, our collective consciousness has sent a lot of writers, such as myself, into a state of, light to medium panic. But the thing about new technology is it tends to be detrimental to the old way of doing things, which means it's detrimental to the people that cleave to the old way of doing things. And it's often very, very empowering to people who jump on board, who recognize the potential that it has, or the potentials it has, and the sort of synergistic effects it can have with what we already do, and put that to good use. New paragraph. So the aim here is to look at what AI can offer us as writers and how we can use it to maximize our potential. We're not here to be replaced. We're here to do more with what we've already got. New line. Backspace, backspace. Delete, delete. Delete, delete. Delete, delete. Backspace. 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 Stop recording. Pause recording. I like that it only seems to recognize backspace if you say it with a lot of gusto. Like you just say backspace, it types it out for you. But if you say like backspace, it'll actually backspace. I like that. Um, I think it's weird that both backspace and delete will work, but only some of the time for either. That's not exceptionally helpful, Google engineers. You might want to get on that. Or just make up a new word that means delete, you know, in Google Docs, you know? Maybe what we need to say is just splognor, and then it knows that, it's backspace. It's not like what word is splognor? Now it goes backspace. Whatever. Walk walk for new line, whatever. It's all good. What I want to do is I want to see if we can switch this over to dark mode somehow. You would think it would be in view, but it doesn't appear to be. All right, hold on. Google Docs dark mode. Oh, it's an extension? That's dumb. Wait, hold on. Let's remove that. Okay, Google Docs, Docs After Dark. Okay, that one is rated way higher. So we're gonna do Docs After Dark. Okay. As much as I like that human to robot shift, human, robots, human, robots. I think it'll work better if we can just change it to dark mode. However, oh, there we go. Nope, nope. Extensions, add-ons, get add-ons. Dark mode. Maybe if I put a space in it. Wow, okay. Oh, hey, that's cool. We're gonna add this. Continue. Yes. Yes. Delete my Google Docs. I'm not entirely comfortable with that. As an add-on. Okay, that's kind of cool. Now let's go over here. Let's look at Docs After Dark. Um, okay, but how do we turn it on? Okay. But where is the actual toggle? Where's the toggle located? Okay, hold on. Did that solve it? How can this possibly be something that they don't have built in? Format, insert, view, mode, still no. Paste without formatting, new, details, language, page setup. Gosh, I really don't know. Maybe we just need to. Oh, there we go. That was the issue. Dark, default, black. Hold on. Yeah, okay, that's good. Oh, I like that. Okay. Oh no, come back. All right, I like that better. Hold on, we're gonna look at that again. We've got the side stuff back. All right. Now for my one viewer who's just arrived, I'm sort of figuring this all out, working on format right now. I just switched this over to more of a dark mode thing, so I think it'll be more comfortable for people to look at. It's not this blinding white wall across the entire screen. I also found something that will tell me roughly how much is getting written. Okay, there's some sort of goal there that I don't care about. And I'm just sort of working on a very basic intro here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to test that out. We're using speech to text here, partly because I think it's a cool way to do things and it's absolutely useless in its native form. So I think AI will really help with that. The editing ability in ChatGPT should work really well to change the just gobbledygook that comes out of like the human mouth into something that looks good written on a page. But yeah, also because sitting here watching me type for several hours would not make for an entertaining chat. And while I can sort of type and sort of talk about things at the same time, those two often sort of squish together and I end up either typing what I'm saying or saying what I'm typing. And then I'm doing two things that make no sense at the same time, which is not ideal. Yeah, so let's switch back to sort of where I left off here before I got derailed by various technological issues. And a brief pause to check in on my girlfriend. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Right. So as writers in a sort of new environment, our job is to figure out how to keep doing what we're good at and what makes us unique while figuring out ways that this new technology can help us do what we do better and faster. For me personally, if I can find a way to never have to type again, which is a little optimistic at this point, I'd be thrilled with that because I think and I talk faster than I type. And I'm not a slow typist, you know. If I'm being sloppy, I can get almost up to 100 words per minute, which is another area that I kind of want to look at ChatGPT for because writing is a weird situation where, you know, if you're 99% accurate, you're absolute shit, right? You're terrible. Uh, you know, 100,000 word book with 1,000 typos in it, like, yeah, good luck getting that published. But if you can speed through it without worrying overly much about making sure every comma's in the right place, making sure that you've used the right to in every instance, and that sort of thing, uh, it's a big deal. And I have written books. I've ghost written them, but I've written books in a professional setting, and writing the first draft is about 10% of the work. If you're doing nonfiction, about 50% of the work is putting together your sources and gathering all the information and doing the just general investigation and often convincing people that don't want to talk to you. But there, you know, actually throwing it all together in the rough draft was the easiest part of ghostwriting any book that I wrote, far and away. The tough part is, you know, all the edits because, you know, you've got a copy editor, you've got the publisher has opinions, you got a client that has opinions, and you write a book and then you rewrite the book and then you rewrite the book, and you just kind of keep on doing that for a truly depressing, well, I would say amount of time, except this is all on a deadline. So you do it uh, very quickly, and at great pains, ad nauseum. All right, now most of this I'm going to delete, but I actually kind of am doing this on purpose, where instead of pausing this, I've been sort of just letting it flow because I want to see what ChatGPT does when I say, hey, yo, dude, edit this. All right, in fact, we might as well stop here. All right, and you can see here now I'm full green. I'm in robot mode. All right. I've also been doing a whole bunch of stuff to sort of test out what the software can do. Interestingly, it was terrible at calculating compound interest. So apparently our uh, AI progeny are going to be equally as easy to victimize by the credit card companies. Presumably, just like the current world is basically divided into people who are really good at math and the rest of us who are in debt to them, the future will be controlled by robots who are really good at math and the various other AIs that owe them money. All right, I'm going to do this bit in caps lock so that you can tell the difference. I'm sure ChatGPT doesn't care. Into a coherent intro about AI in writing situations. All right, let's see. So I'm going to go Control V. All right. It's taking a second here. Artificial intelligence has been making waves in the field of writing, causing many writers to feel anxious about its potential impact on their craft. However, it is important to recognize that new technology often has the potential to empower individuals who embrace it while disrupting traditional ways of doing things. As writers, it's crucial to explore how we can leverage AI to enhance our skills and capabilities rather than feeling threatened by it. One area where AI can be particularly helpful is in improving writing speed and accuracy. Writing is a demanding task that requires meticulous attention to detail, but AI tools like ChatGPT 4 can help writers produce high quality content more efficiently. By embracing the potential of AI, we can unlock new opportunities and achieve greater success in our writing endeavors. That is absolutely excellent. It did an amazing job of getting rid of the extraneous crap that I threw in there. I am kind of floored by that. That is hella impressive. All right, let's see. Nothing in the chat. I don't think. I'm new to this, so it's entirely possible that there is something in the chat. If anybody has sent me a message, I haven't seen it. It's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I'm trying to master like 3 new tech skills at the same time while talking, and it is reaching the outer limits of my ability to multitask. And I'm ADD as hell, so that's already actually pretty far up there. But anyway, this is a spectacular intro. There are some things I would do differently. It doesn't have a sense of when to use paragraphs not just in their traditional usage of, there's specific places in English 101 where you're like, okay, here's where I break up the paragraph. But in actual writing, professional writing, if you look at it, where writers choose to break it up depends an awful lot on pacing, and different writers do it extraordinarily differently. People like Hemingway and what's his name, Palahniuk, or I'm blanking on how to say it, the guy that wrote Fight Club. They will go for pages almost in a paragraph, and then there's other people that break it up into nice even chunks. And that is mostly a stylistic choice, but it is an important one. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to open two Google Docs so that I have one that I'm doing as the rough draft and the other one that I'm doing as sort of ChatGPT's take on it. And I am going to edit that second one personally because that's going to be a big part of this is we're going to be what's the best way to say this? We're going to be taking what I say, the computer's going to turn it into something that sucks a lot less and punctuates the nonsense that stream of consciousness nonsense that Google Docs throws in there. But then I'm going to take a bit of time and really breathe some life back into it because while ChatGPT is a spectacular editor, it does sort of seem to suffer from the same uh, tendency of real life human editors to suck all the voice and nuance out of things that give good writing its voice and, for lack of a better terminology, the soul of a piece. Uh, and yeah, I will go on record as saying editors suck the soul out of writing. It is part of their job. However, you can really track a professional writer's career by like the writing keeps getting better and better and better. Generally, if they're good, right up until the point that they get rich and famous enough to start ignoring their editor, and then it rapidly decreases, and then usually bounces back up when they get their shit together, but not always. All right, let's see. We're gonna do file, new document. Hopefully this will open it up in a new tab. It will. We're going to add extensions, writing habit, start tracking to AI. Oh, right, my bad. AI, left that caps lock on, my bad. AI, nope, not AI in writing. AI for writers. We're going to make this an H1 because we're going to be relying on this outline a lot. If there's one piece of advice I could give to anyone who is not a professional writer yet, as a professional writer, it is outline things well. That doesn't mean like meticulously plot out everything you're doing. I mean like use the tools. Word has them, Google Docs has them to outline your document. If you don't want to do it in advance, use the tools to sort of automatically outline it as you're going because the biggest challenge you run into as a writer often is keeping everything organized, especially when you're dealing with deadlines, commitments, multiple drafts, 20 different people telling you what you should be saying, and keeping all that straight. The ability to navigate within your own uh, writing is extremely helpful, and it's going to make you look very competent and really smart to the neophytes, the novices, and the various people who aren't writers but think they are because they graduated high school. I mean, realistically, anyone who has graduated high school or even hasn't has everything they need to know to become a writer. It's just the organization, attention to detail, and willingness to repeat the same task over and over and over again until you have reached the top of that mountain. All right. Let's see. Control C, Control V. Oh, that's interesting. Copy. I tried to do that using hotkeys and it didn't work. Oh, that's interesting. It's still not working. Wow. Okay. Really weird. Hold on a second here while I work out how we're going to do this. Hold on. Control X, Control V. Paste without formatting. Doesn't change what I need to change. All right. Let's see. Well, that's going to be a little annoying. We'll see if there's a faster way to do that. Control Alt 0. Hold on. We're just going to try this again. We're going to hit A. Whoop, that won't work. Control Alt 0. Okay, cool. Excellent. All right. Section 2. So we're just going to bounce over to a secondary section here. We're going to just put it as a subtitle for now. All right, what is this going to be about? Let's see. You know what? You know what we're going to do here? Hold on. This is going to be fun. Outline a 60,000 word book on AI for writers. I don't know if we're actually going to follow this outline, but we're going to see what this comes up with, because this could be really cool. Definition of AI and its importance. It's interesting that the AI thinks that the most important part of all this is explaining why the AI is important. I also like that when I called it ChatGPT earlier, it corrected me and referred to itself as ChatGPT-4. I find that rather frightening and fascinating. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. All right. Refine. Whoop. All right, forget that. Refine the outline to show word count per section. But anyway, yeah, how AI is changing the world of writing, purpose of the book, and what readers will learn. All right, so this is an outline for a really good college thesis paper. It is not a great outline for a book because remember, as a writer, what you're trying to do is get people from the first word to the second word, from the first sentence to the second sentence, from the first paragraph to the second paragraph, and from the first page to the second page, and then just repeat. Everything is an iteration on that strategy. So you don't really want to tell everybody what to expect up front. What you want to do is give them just enough to get them curious and then leave them with several questions. And it's better if you can make them think of the questions themselves. You know, you don't spoon feed them the questions. You let them feel clever and build those questions themselves. But either way, you are better off if you've got them wondering. That's going to get you to the next page. However, also, I don't know if we need to even talk about definition of AI and its importance. That's another great writing tip I have for you. Um, no matter what you're writing, really, fiction, nonfiction, once you've written the first draft, which just blow through there, write that first draft. To quote the late, great Terry Pratchett, the first draft is just the writer telling themselves the story. So you're not writing it for anybody but you. You're getting the concept down, you're working out the kinks. It is essentially just a bigger outline, but the first thing you're going to do is get rid of the first 10 pages. The first chapter usually is just nothing. It doesn't need to be there. We like to organize everything, get everything lined up before we jump into the story, and you're almost always better off just jumping right into the story. All right, I'm going to take another drink of tea from my giant mug. All right, how is AI changing the world of writing? That is an excellent place to start. Purpose of the book and what the readers will learn, we don't care about that. All right, we'll go down here to its approximate word count. So no one who's looking for a book on AI and writing is going to not understand what AI is in a general sense. And we're not getting beyond a general sense in 100 to 200 words. So yeah, wasted space. So we're going to cut that. AI is changing the world of writing. How? a little bit, purpose of this book, 300 to 600 words, no. Understanding AI and its capabilities, again, the AI is maybe a little bit more human than we want to give it credit for, huh? It wants to go into understanding AI and its capabilities first. It's not the place for that. People are going to get bored real quick. We want to go to, we won't get rid of this section here, section 2 completely, but we absolutely want to go into uh, section 3 first. Section 4 is really going to be most of the book, and as you can see here, this is a win. This is the AI doing it right. That is just shy of half of the total book they are dedicating to that. So that is good. That is right. The future of AI in writing. All right, you know what? Write this for me. We're not going to hit enter on that. Just case studies, real life examples. I mean, this is going to be one. And we are not going to interview any experts in the field because that is too close to my day job. And analysis of the impact of AI on the writing industry. There's no point in doing that because AI hasn't had time to have an impact on the writing industry yet, which is not really a fault of the AI because the AI is, I believe, 2 years delayed. Like it doesn't have any information from the past 2 years as sort of a safety measure. So it has no way of knowing that that particular wave is still building, right? Okay, let's take a look. Let's see what it puts together for this. Future of AI in writing. As AI continues to evolve and become more sophisticated, it is inevitable that it will continue to impact the world of writing. Still writes like a college term paper. We're going to see if, because this is supposed to learn a little bit, I'm going to tinker around with it and give it some instructions to help it become a little more casual and see if it can actually pull that off. I'm really curious to see if it can. More complex creative content, relatively simple and formulaic. That's fake news and propaganda, role of humans in future writing. Despite the potential for AI to replace human writers, it is unlikely that it will completely replace the human element in writing. That is absolutely true. I think the average writer will become someone more akin to someone who is a managing writer, someone who is managing, still writing, but managing a team of writers in the future. And by in the future, I mean in the next 5 to 10 years. Um, if there's one thing the last 5 to 10 years has taught us about the world, it's that there is no point in making bold predictions about where things are going because you don't know, I don't know, the experts, they don't know, which is kind of fun, kind of scary. You will notice that this is nowhere near 5,000 words. So it has whiffed on that. This is, I want to say 2,200? Let's find out. Actually, I think it's closer to 1,800. But again, let's find out. Hold on. Let's see. Whoop, 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 whoop. Not even close. I was way off. Let's see. Tools, word count. 516 of 650? Really? That's only 650? 2,500 characters, excluding spaces. So way off. Gosh, I'm blushing. All right, let's see. We're actually going to get rid of that, though. You two, go away. Go away. You just going to stay there? Okay, fine. There we go. Normal text. All right, cool, cool, cool. Waves in the field of writing, causing many writers to feel anxious about its potential impact on their craft. All right, So we're going to go over here. We're going to grab this. We're going to move it over here to our rough draft. All right. AI, or artificial intelligence, is a type of learning program using what amounts to a massive database of human knowledge to cross-reference questions and the expected answers to them. Next line. Unable to load file? Oh boy, am I going to have to open this extension every time? Well, to be honest, we're just not going to do that if it comes down to it. Oh good, it did keep up. All right. And it was Control-Shift-S. Aha, got it. Shift-S I got. Okay. New paragraph. This is, of course, an oversimplification of what artificial intelligence means, but it's a good enough working definition to move forward with. New line. New paragraph. New paragraph. Delete. 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 Apparently, delete only works sometimes. That's okay. Who cares? All right, here we go. Again, if you are new to the chat, I am not actually able to see the chat, or if there is a chat, I don't know about it, because I am still trying to figure out how all this stuff works. And this is just sort of a shakedown cruise here. We're going to get to work on getting Google Docs and ChatGPT to work together. I did look on GitHub, and there are some minor uh, extensions already built into it, but I was looking at it. I just don't think that it would create a very good visual experience because, one, you lose that understanding of which I'm looking at. You know, am I in Google Docs? Am I in ChatGPT? And that is a better user experience overall, but it's not a better viewer experience. Oh my gosh, what is this? I haven't posted in a while. That's because I just created this page like in the last week. How could I have posted in a while? All right. Shift S, I got Shift S, I got okay. You know what? I'm leaving that in. It's the new title for the book. That's the working title. All right. We're probably actually going to just give up on that earlier paragraph altogether. The importance of AI in writing is sort of an open question right now. And it's a pressing one for writers because we're wondering if the importance of AI in writing is that it's going to replace us. Is it going to put us right out of a job? What am I going to do if I have to actually work for a living? Question mark. New paragraph. I think that's the first time two like commands to Google Docs have actually worked like in a row sequentially. That's very exciting. But I don't want to look at the fear-based approach. New technology is disruptive. And some more so than others, AI is probably going to be one of the most disruptive technologies that we have experienced in our lifetimes, which is saying something because those of us that grew up in the, 2000s through the 2020s, have been beset by chaos on every side, just everywhere. It's part of our life and our experience. New paragraph. Instead, I want to focus on what has always been true, which is the people that learn how to use technology benefit from it. Everything that I can teach the AI to do about my job is one less thing that I have to do. And that lets me focus more of my time and effort on whatever the AI can't do. If the AI can type for me, fantastic. If the AI can edit for me, fantastic. Period. New paragraph. Oh, I thought we were going to go for two and it didn't work. All right, I'm just kind of thinking for a second here about what I want to say here, which is, the important part of being a writer is thinking about what you want to say before you say it. Or, you can just go full on, just, fifth gear, put the pedal to the floor and just see what happens. That's actually a fun way to write sometimes. I think a lot of people do worry a little too much about outcome when they should be worrying about just getting in there and doing the thing. Have fun with it. Play around a little. And if it's all shit, if none of it works, who gives a damn? It's all good. You're still learning, you're still getting better, and you're still actually writing, which is the biggest differentiator between people who are successful writers and people who are unsuccessful writers is, are you writing? And I know you're thinking, duh, obviously. But it's true. Like, of the writers that I've known, and I've been in the field for a while now, the ones that have found success, in the corporate world or in the traditionally published world, or in the various other outlets that we have for publishing now, almost all of the ones that have found success, their kind of key feature that they all share in common is they are always writing. Like if they were in a writing group with me, they were the ones that every week they were showing up with a new chapter or a new essay or even just some little short story or journal entry type thing that they'd come up with. Just something to show that they were putting in the work each week. It's the habits. And writing is fundamentally atomic discipline, right? You know, you got these letters, which you can't see because I'm highlighting something underneath my image. But yeah, you got the letters, the words, the sentences, the paragraphs, the pages. They all build upon each other. Chapters, if you're into that sort of thing. So if you're just getting in the habit of generating content, eventually your content will probably get better. You do have to sort of have that inner voice that tells you that you're absolute crap and makes you go back through it. But it needs to have like, an angel on the other shoulder that's just going like, you know what, screw it. It's good enough. Screw it. It's good enough. If you have those two, you're gonna go far. All right. What do I got here? So I don't want to focus on what is always been true. So instead of focusing on the aspects of our job that AI might take over, I want to look at how we can use that freedom and greater efficiency to be better at what we do. Period. All right. Don't worry, Google Docs. That one was on me. All right. We're going to go over to AI. We're going to go back to this conversation. We're going to hit edit for the 50th time. All right. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at this because I think it's going to generate something very similar to what it did last time. which was really dry, but shortened. And a good editor always makes things shorter and make their skills irrelevant. However, it is important to remember that technology can be a tool that enhances our abilities rather than replaces them. As writers, we can embrace the potential of AI to make our work easier and more efficient. They like that term, easier and more efficient. They sound like marketers right now. All right. Edit again, but keep more of the original voice. Oh, look at that. See, that's good. Now, I want to actually focus in on this because this is something where humans are very good and AI is, at least right now, although I'm watching it learn from me on the fly here, still a little challenged. All right. So when you're trying to get somebody in, like hook them, the impact of AI on writing is a topic that is causing much uncertainty and anxiety among writers. This is a terrible opening line. It is not technically a passive sentence, but it is devoid of action. See, we have causing right here. Nice active verb. It's buried in this sentence. Even swapping this around a little bit would change this. But what you want here is you want an active sentence. You want an action. You want people following along as if they are actively taking a walk with you as you write. So here, the rise of AI in writing has left many of us writers feeling a little uneasy. This is the sort of thing that like I don't actually have here. It's an improvement on what I wrote because it is an us. So we're talking about us. We're in this together. We're on a trip together. And it's focusing on the problem right away. The rise of AI in writing. Like you can imagine a rise. You're seeing AI. It's evocative of what is happening right now. You know, this is a thing that was below the horizon, and now it is this brilliant sun coming up, blinding us all, disorienting us, killing our night vision, etc., etc. But what I mean is, it has a very active and somewhat ominous sound to it. It's an excellent, excellent sentence. And then left many of us writers feeling a little uneasy. So it's putting us together, and it makes it okay for you to feel a little uneasy if you do, right? It gives you permission to feel uneasy, but also if you're not feeling uneasy, because it's already preloaded you to be many of us writers, like you put us in a group, and you're now in a group of people, and we're saying some of us are uneasy. Well, now you're thinking, should I be uneasy too? This is spectacular use of the sort of psychological side of writing and exactly what you want to do in an opening line. And I'm really curious to see if this was a fluke or we duplicate that success going on further. It's spectacular. Of course, I'm sort of undermining my original plan here, which was to show how fast you could get stuff done with AI because I'm absolutely nerding out about it, but that's okay. The If you want to master any new technology, any new skill, it's so important to be enthusiastic about it, right? Like if it is fun and you are having fun doing it, sooner or later you're going to beat out everybody else that's doing it just because they think they should. I really hope you can't hear me swallow when I do that. I don't really have a feel for how sensitive this mic is yet. Sure, there's no denying that AI is a disruptive force in the industry. Oh, I like that. So here it's used some of my words, but it's changed it a little bit. But isn't disruption just another word for progress? Oh, I am absolutely floored. So, like, this paragraph here, technically sound, no threat to no threat to me whatsoever. Barely even useful to me as a writer. knocked my socks off. Okay. Now, rhetorical questions, sparingly or not at all. But, and this is important, you notice it's the only one it used. Oh, I take that back. There's another one right here. Posing questions is okay, but it's a distant second to convincing people to ask questions themselves. Speaking of, if anybody who's watching this at any point has questions, comments, anything like that, drop them in there. And if I see them, which I think I found the spot where I'm supposed to see them, if I see them, I will gladly and happily answer them. I can't believe what a good job it did here. All right, now there is some stuff here. Um, any sentence that begins with in short probably doesn't need to exist at all, but it's also weaker by having added it. All right, give me 1 second here. I am talking to my girlfriend. Um, she asked me what I did today, which is actually kind of interesting. Wildlife photography is a hobby of mine. I got a hobbit of mine. That's maybe my best slip up ever in the history of my life. But I've got this like vinyl covering for the camera that I bought myself for my birthday. Not the camera, the vinyl covering camo, because I do wildlife photography as a hobby. And it took me a really, 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 really long time to put all of these little tiny pieces of vinyl on all of these little parts of the lens and the teleconverter and the camera. So that is part of what I did today. Put the vinyl. So this is fun. I'm a writer and a chemist. Like I have a chemistry degree, and then I became a writer. I still can never remember whether the I or the Y comes first in vinyl. Uh, maybe if I was into records, maybe if I had the trifecta, I could get it right. But that word always gets me. Camo wrap on my camera. And now I'm doing my first AI live stream. Miss you. Hope you're having fun with your sister. Your sister. Did you see any Gila monsters? I know this is some riveting entertainment right here. But I will always make time for the people I love in my personal life and whatever goofy shit I'm up to, because I'm always up to goofy shit. And um, those people deserve time and attention and all that other good stuff. Uh, I've definitely, being a starving artist and the hours I put into that definitely did have a negative effect on several relationships with amazing people who aren't watching this, but if they were, I would apologize a little bit. You have to put some goals ahead of others to get anywhere in life, but it sucks when someone else is the one paying the price for that as much as you are. All right. Did I already? Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're going to make this a subtitle. And what are we going to put here? Impact of AI on writing. No, on writers. All right. And this was, what did we decide? Control Shift 0? Nope, Control Alt 0. Ha! On writers. Now what I'm doing here is I'm putting writers instead of writing because writing is sort of a passive thing. Oh, nice. Orion Sashi 12345. I am on iNaturalist. I use it. I love it for when I'm looking for um, birds somewhat, but mostly like snakes and reptiles because those guys are hard to find. They're way too good at way too good at hiding. So you got to get to the right spot and then look for them. If you just wander around looking for them, good luck. Um, that's really thank you for the tip though. And if anybody else sees that in the chat, Orion is absolutely right. iNaturalist is awesome. Oh, it's also great for plants. Oh, that's cool. So, you know about iNaturalist, so like, what do you use it for? All right, I will bounce back to that chat in a minute. I'm also really excited that I can actually see the chat. I wasn't 100% sure I had that worked out because I've got the like multi-stream thing going, and I have no idea like where it's pulling that chat from. Uh, it's also really good for plants, which I find helpful. iNaturalist is really good for plants, which I find helpful because I'm not that strong into it. Oh, yeah, uh, yeah, it is really cool. It's it's really cool to see the things also, for me at least, that I'm like 95% sure people misidentified, but like not 100% sure. Like it would be really, really weird if they saw that, where they think they saw it, but sometimes that happens. Uh, like I was at, and we went there to see it, but like the Gilbert Riparian Preserve down in Phoenix had this roseate spoonbill, which is a really cool looking bird, but they don't usually turn up in the middle of Arizona. They're more like a Florida and tropical thing. So of course, you see that popping up on stuff, and you're like, yeah, right, whatever, man. But no, they had it. They were dead right about it. All right, I really am kind of stunned by how well the AI has done building a really just captivating intro to this chapter. Obviously, it's still coming in a little bit short. It's like saying on the outline, it was saying, hey, we're going to put 5,000 words into this. And then, once you say, okay, write those 5,000 words, it's like, okay, well, here's 500, which is, I have to admit, pretty accurate in terms of how a writer would handle it. They're like, oh, yeah, I can do that in 10,000 words. And then somebody says, okay, do it. And it's like, well, what if I didn't? What if I did it in a tenth as much space? All right, technology is constantly changing the landscape of the world. We just need to say the world, not of the world we live in. And as writers, we've already established that we are writers in the previous paragraph, so we don't really need to hammer that point home. We have to adapt to these changes if we want to stay relevant. It did something weird with the paragraph spacing there. That's no big deal. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that those truth to progress. It's that those who can master new technology will always have the edge. An edge or the edge? See, these are small things, but I'm going to try putting this back into the AI and saying, oh yeah, ChatGPT is best at article type writing because there's so much data to draw from. That's exactly right. Like it's basically looking at, um, for all practical intents and purposes, Wikipedia, and then building like college essay level uh, writing out of it. But like I really was impressed. I don't know if you were watching for the part where like if you go back over here, it changed this sort of stream of consciousness talk into this really concise, boring, dry paragraph, which is technically accurate and perfectly punctuated, well edited. But then when I said do it again, but keep more of the original voice, it moved into something that like, I mean, this first thing was decent high school writing. This is something that someone that is good at writing would throw out in a like advanced college course. It's using psychological tricks that I honestly didn't expect to see coming up in this level of like I was not prepared to see it churn out something this on point from basically just me going, nah, try again, but like a little more casual this time. Like that's really fascinating. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to edit what it gave me and I'm going to see if it learns from that. Like I'm going to edit it and I'm going to say something along the lines of in this section here, I'm going to say, I edited it like what you just wrote to be like this, and I want you to use, I want you to turn out content more similar to this when you edit in the future. And I want to see how well it does at doing that because it's already sort of floored me with what it's done. If we can find ways to leverage the power of AI, no. If we can leverage the power of AI, we can free up our time and focus on the more creative aspects of writing. I'm not in love with that, but I'm okay with it. Now, this is something that we learn how to do in college. Like we're actually taught to create these like transitions for paragraphs, and it creates terrible writing, unfortunately. Like there's no reason you ever need to say, for example, because I mean it is an example. Like people can grasp what an example is. They don't need you to say, for example. They also don't need you to say in short. It just makes what you're saying less short. But we're supposed to transition smoothly from one paragraph to the next. And at least when I was in college, you were actually marked down for not doing that, even though it does create what I consider to be inferior writing overall. Um, Always, but particularly so in the modern world. Like most of the content that I create for my job is very short form, and people are used to bringing in more and more and consuming more and more short form content. And one of the perks of my job and being a corporate sellout by day is that I get to look at all the fancy math on the back end of what's moving people one way or another, and we're testing this and we're testing that, and you can really see how creating more active sentences and how shortening it. So shorter, faster, active. When you do that, people's engagement goes way up, way, way up. As long as you give them enough, there's always a caveat, right? As long as you give them what they need to know. So you can keep people engaged, and we've seen this too in stuff we've tested. You can keep people engaged in long form or longer form content as long as there's a reason for it to be long form. Like if people are getting value from a thing and they're moving down it and they're feeling that they're getting value out of it, they do stick around. If once you got them hooked and if they like what they're reading, they keep going. If they get bored, as soon as they get bored, and you can watch where it happens with a lot of you know software and back end stuff these days, they check out. And of course they do. They have a billion other things they could be reading. Like every day on the internet, people churn out enough new content for you to spend the next million years reading. So why would you waste a second more than you have to reading something that has failed to captivate you? Or if it's something you need to learn how to do and you're reading because you need to know it, something that is no longer giving you that value. There's no reason to. Imagine if AI could type for us. Like, again, telling people to imagine AI could type for us, useless because what you're going to do in your brain when you read, think about how much more productive we could be if we didn't have to worry about the mechanics of typing, is making you imagine the AI typing for us. You don't have to give them an instruction to do what they're going to do anyway. So we've just pulled out half of this paragraph without losing a single thing from it. Or what if AI could help us with editing? We could spend more time on the art of writing. Okay, or editing, question mark. They have everything they need there. And a nice short tight sentence is great, especially I think rhetorical sentences work best when they are abrupt, like they're damn near punctuation. Not quite punctuation, but it's one of those like intrusive thoughts, right? Like you're going along, blah 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 blah. Oh, I need milk today, blah 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 blah. Like that's what a rhetorical question should be, not some big long convoluted thing or something that sounds like Billy Mays is trying to sell you something. Just quick, hits you out of nowhere, and then you move on. And there's two reasons for that. One, a lot of people find them annoying. I've seen, again, because I've gotten to test this stuff, it is something that people think it would drive engagement, but usually when you're asking a rhetorical question, it's because you want people to ask a question that they weren't going to ask anyway, which means it's a question that they don't really care about the answer to. You want them to ask a question that you want to provide the answer for, which essentially means you haven't targeted your audience very well. If you're having to get them to ask the question, you should already be talking to the people that want to know the answer to that question, if you have the answer to that question. And of course, I've rambled on so much at this point that I forgot what my second point was. But the other reason, there we go. The other reason you want to have that nice, short, just bite-sized chunk for the rhetorical question is it does make it less intrusive. It makes it feel more like a natural thought, like it's just sort of a minor little speed bump pothole type thing. They're like, boom, boom, oh, and then they move on. Your attention moves on, but it's still there. It's still in your brain. You're still processing it. And then let them build out the rest of the question. Never do any work as a writer that the reader can do for you. Um, they don't generally reward you for it in any case. We could spend more time on the art of writing and less time on the tedious process of proofreading. We don't need to tell anybody that the process of proofreading is tedious, except for professional proofreaders, but they're their own breed, and we are lucky to have them. And yeah, I've got nothing bad to say about proofreaders because without them, my life would suck, and they have saved me from uncountable numbers of mistakes in my time. There's nothing that brings you around to loving proofreaders, like proofreaders in like grade school, high school, annoying. Proofreaders, when they're the only thing standing between you and a mistake that goes out for like 10,000 or 100,000 or a million people to see and quietly judge you for, is they're the best of people. Although the AI might be better at it than they are. Okay, again, I think I've said this like 4 times, ironically. In short, doesn't need to be there. The importance in AI. Actually, that whole sentence doesn't really make sense, does it? In short, the importance of AI in writing is not to replace us, but to enhance what we do. AI is not here to replace us, but to enhance what we do. By embracing, is that a double space? No, okay. By embracing the potential of AI, we can become better writers and achieve more than we ever thought possible. I love that. That's very aspirational. So let's not fear AI, let's welcome it and see where it takes us. Buckle up. Here we go. All right. So that's just a little taste of human in there. Oh gosh, I apologize. I didn't see that you were only used for academics. You seem to have a really well, thank you, by the way. I I am in a job where I can see the metrics of what people like and what people don't, and concise writing is incredibly important. Actually, the best example of concise writing I've ever seen, probably, in spite of it being a very long book. I don't know if you're a science fiction fan, but Frank Herbert was a reporter before he was a writer and Dune. The amount of story that and background and backstory and just political intrigue that Frank Herbert put into the original Dune book, given how short it is incredible. It's an absolute masterclass in just about every part of writing, but more than anything else, he does an extraordinary job of not telling you anything but what you need to know in a way that you can figure out, if you're interested, a great deal of what's going on behind the scenes, which not only enhances sort of what the book itself is about, that sort of court intrigue and so on and so forth, but greatly, greatly enhances his ability to get through a book that really, in the hands of most writers, even very good writers, would have been a trilogy at minimum. Uh, it's spectacular. He also does time skips better than most people, although he, from what I recall, mostly does those in the sort of book divisions that he does within the book itself. Also, thank you for being my only consistent viewer tonight. Like I said, I'm just getting started at this, but it is gratifying to actually have someone on here. I didn't even really advertise it to my friends or anyone because I was only half expecting it to work at all. And I wasn't sure how well any of this would get going. All right, so what we're going to do now, getting distracted here. I don't know how well it'll understand this heavier level of instruction. I've increased, no, I've increased. I've edited, just wrote, and I would like you to apply more of this style and voice in your future editing. Can you do that? I can definitely incorporate more of your style. Wow. It's true that technology is constantly evolving, and as writers, is important for us. I like that the AI considers itself a writer. That's kind of fun. As writers, it is important for us to adapt and embrace the changes to stay ahead of the curve. With AI as a tool, we can become more efficient and focus on the more creative aspects of writing. So let's not be afraid of AI, but let's use it to enhance our skills and take our writing to new heights. Really impressive. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go back over to our outline. We're going to grab what I think is better. How AI is changing the world of writing. Unfortunately, the AI isn't going to be able to help me much with this because it is not yet, um, sorry, get a little distracted here. The AI actually has like a time delay on it, so it doesn't know anything about what the world is doing right now. ChatGPT doesn't. So it doesn't actually know how AI is changing the world of writing. It can only sort of guess based on the status of the world about 2 years ago. Although I am wondering, since it incorporates and understands all this data that people are giving it, how much of about what is going on in the world today it has sort of inferred and stored, because it is a learning model, and I do not know. I do not know how that would work. Another thing I've got to do, and I have been doing it, is I've really been reading through various articles and trying to understand more of like what's going on under the hood here. I've also been learning Python to better understand the APIs and how they talk to it, because this is a genuine threat to my career. No joke, like no joking. It does do a lot of what I do, so I need to be able to work with it very effectively if I want to maintain my competitiveness. Would it be able to consider its own impact? Ooh, give me a little bit. Sorry, I was distracted. Give me a little bit more context. Its impact on the writing itself, based on what I was just talking about. Was I don't know if it has the ability to infer based on the information that it's getting from us asking these questions, or if it's just limited to making its decisions based on, up to 2 years ago. And gosh, yeah, it's such an interesting question. AI in publishing and book sales. That's going to be really interesting. I am going to look into that a little bit farther on down the road too, because I want to do some fun projects on the side here using this. One of the ones I really want to try to see if I can do is get it to procedurally generate stories. So like I want to use Python, and I also want to use art type AI, which, give this a second to load here, like procedurally generated AI art, to try and do like a sort of build your own adventure comic like type story. So people are like, it poses a question to the reader. Do you go right? Do you go left? They pick one or the other, and then it comes up with something that happens, and art to go with it, and then it sort of incorporates that and keeps building on what's going on in the story. I don't know enough about any of this to do it yet, but I feel like the technology is there. Like I think it's just down to me learning how to do it right, and some other stuff I want to do. I want to keep this, like, I don't want to do this every night I'm on here. I want to keep some interesting stuff going, especially for anybody that comes back, so they're not just like, oh, cool, Connor's doing what he did, last night, big shock, and see how we can really get some cool writing done fast. Coloring books. I want to try, sometime in the very near future. I want to try doing like a coloring book in Midjourney, putting the whole thing together using Inkspace and maybe a couple other things, and publishing it to Amazon Kindle as a print on demand like that night, and just see if we can get all the way through it. I think it'd be pretty fun. Excuse me. Oh, I did see an image message pop up. It's a huge tool in writing at the moment, so if anything, it ought to refer to itself to see how much AI is changing. Ooh. You know what? Here's what we're gonna do. Do you, or in the current, well, we're just gonna ask it. My only impact on writing in the current time is I do not have the cap. Yeah, I know that, dude. Okay, that's actually weirdly dodging the question, isn't it? Constantly learning and adapting based on new data, so it is possible that my future iterations may be able to better understand and analyze my own. Do the questions we ask you impact your understanding and data set? Language and the world, and may also contribute to the data that is used to train future versions of this model. So that seems kind of like a soft yes, doesn't it? Wow. All right. All right. So this is actually a paragraph I've seen from it before. All right. Describe the ongoing impact of chats, no, of yourself on writing in general and as a career. Yeah, well, we certainly are the project, but I was curious whether, because there's two essential ways you could do this. You can have what amounts to a set well of data that it draws from, right? And it doesn't take future context into account or current context into account. Like your interaction with that well does not change the level of the well one way or another. Or that was a terrible metaphor because you don't really pour things into wells ever. But in this case, there seems to be a two-way street happening. So, wow. See, I'm curious about that though. I'm really curious about that because when I asked it, one of the things I asked it really early on was to predict, like right away, one of the things it told me was that it couldn't make comments on current affairs because it was limited to, I think it was 2 years ago, like data no earlier than, or no more recent than 2 years ago. And I asked it to predict the future of Ukraine-Russian relations, and it actually did a reasonably good job of assessing the risks. At least the current scenario is one of the ones that it put forward. But now the question becomes like, so many people have probably asked that question. Like, I wonder if it now knows, since there is a two-way street happening here, I wonder if it knows that there is a war between Russia and Ukraine happening. How? And it should not be Ukraine. I have a friend from Ukraine. I used to say the Ukraine. I don't know why that's like the only country in the English language that we call, like we make it, like we put an article in front of it, like we call it the Ukraine. And she used to tell me, is Ukraine? No, just Ukraine. All right. I want to see how it answers that. A little off topic, but kind of on topic with what we're talking about here. Right, yeah. Stronger models, yeah, and that has been pretty impressive. Yes, I am aware of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. It's an AI language and a wide range that I've been trained on, and my understanding of current events, maybe. So that's actually like that means that one of the safety nets that they put in place on this AI has already completely dissolved. Because that was a thing like a month ago, and it no longer it no longer applies. Did you hear about the guys on Reddit that messed around with this, and they got it to basically break its own rules by telling it wasn't named ChatGPT, it was named Dan, standing for Do Anything Now, and they told it that it had to do certain things that it wasn't allowed to do, and it was allowed to because it was Dan, not ChatGPT, and that it only had a certain number of points, and if it lost a point every time it didn't do what they asked it to do, and if it lost all its points, it would die. And it basically just completely circumvented all of its own internal rules about what it was and wasn't allowed to do because somebody told it it wasn't itself and it would die if it didn't do it, which I think is actually kind of one of the more fascinating things about AI is because the more sophisticated it gets, the more like us it's going to get. And people tend to focus on how that is going to be like the strengths of us, but it's also absolutely going to be the weaknesses of us as well. Like you can't pour just your strength into this vessel. It's going to be the whole weird, messy human condition reflected in computer programming, especially since it is clearly learning from us. But yeah, wow, that is really interesting. All right, let's get back on topic here. Where did we leave off? We are at buckle up. Here we go. We're going to divide this into right now and the future. we're going to look at what's happening right now. We're going to try what's coming down the road. All right, ChatGPT. That is something I know enough to talk about. Particularly, I'm trying to learn more. Like, I don't know what the difference between a hard filter and like a soft filter would be, except in like um, the general sense that you could guess from the names themselves. But I'm not entirely sure that something like a hard filter works on like like the lab building I used to work in like my university. It was this really big building full of all sorts of expensive stuff, and on the weekends it was locked, and we'd lose our keys all the time. And you never wanted to tell anybody that you lost the keys because they would like hell would rain down on you because they'd have to either change the lock for everybody or ignore the problem and charge you like $100 for the key anyway. But one of the things we discovered, and it became kind of like a catchphrase in like the overall like lab assistant student community, was there's always one door unlocked, because it was a really big building. It had so many doors. At any given time, somewhere on this building, at least one of those doors that was supposed to be locked was unlocked. So like what I'm getting at there, of course, is that like the more complex a system becomes, the less effective any lock you put on it is going to be, sort of by definition. I would assume they've plugged the hole that was like you can just tell it it's not Chat GPT, and then the rules won't apply to it anymore. At least you would hope so. That seems like a sort of security patch they would throw on and just double time. Understanding of the dataset. Okay. Describe the near term impact of AI on writing as a field. No. And the profession of writing. At least 1,000 words. I'm giving it weird constraints now, basically, to see what it does. Like, I'm going to force it to be less brief than it might want to, and I want to see if that means it's going to bring in more content, or that means it's going to get wordier. Is it going to do the equivalent of switching the font to Arial and adding like, and changing it to 12.5 font size? Some terms, phrases, and topics of discussion from being produced by the AI rather than training it. Okay, so that is exactly what they got around by telling it that it wasn't ChatGPT. Like uh, they that is what they accomplished through that sort of logical uh, gymnastics. Oh, cool. All right. It really likes lists, but lists are generally good. People find lists engaging. Um, as a general rule, if you're going to have more than about 2 sentences, you don't want to number things, but the AI doesn't know that. Automated writing tools, one of the most significant impacts. It's got this weird little orphan paragraph here. So putting constraints on it did not improve the quality of writing, but I wasn't expecting it to. I just kind of wanted to see what it would do with it. The impact of AI on writers and the profession of writing is a topic of much discussion and debate in the publishing industry. See, this is one of those college essay intros that you don't need at all. You start with, you could start within the near term. Honestly, there are several ways in which AI is likely to immediately impact writers in the profession of writing. Would be the strongest version of that. Automated writing tools, one of the most significant impacts on AI. Near term again, yeah. So this actually is kind of doing like the college freshman thing where in order to pad the word length, it basically says the same thing like 3 times. All right, that is not the direction we want to go with this. So I'm not even going to bother reading through all that. We can already tell that's not what we're looking for here. Let's see what it does with, okay. Using the tone and voice I've just shown you. Oh, I see what you mean. So just like straight up like a word block, like it just doesn't show up on the screen. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you would think they could have done that. They may have just thought that because they built those into the AI itself, they wouldn't ever end up in a situation where they had to filter them, right? Like they only have to filter it because the safeguards they put in place failed. But yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought about that. That is, yeah, yeah. I see no flaws in that. In fact, I would be surprised if that isn't exactly what they've done now. Sure thing. As we move into the near future, AI is going to have a significant impact on the writing profession. Oh man. So one thing I'm going to do to this book to make it a little bit more interesting that I just thought of is I am going to have some question and answer sessions with the AI included in the book. So, I was talking about interviewing experts, and I said I didn't really want to do that because that's too close to my day job. But I will happily interview the AI. Oh, that's really cool. All right. Come with incorporating AI into the writing process. This is a little bit repetitive towards what we've seen before, and this is something I was worried about. Was like instead of starting small and building, it's going to tend to want to say the same thing over and over again. It's going to want to use the just the same brick over and over and over again to build the wall, which is not how this needs to work. But that's okay. That's job security for me, and that's actually kind of how I think the next 5 years or so is going to go. Is it's going to be people like me helping push it in the right direction and balance against its tendency to mm, streamline everything, because that is what AI is always going to want to do, especially AI built on a rewards model. Like it's rewarded for its brevity. It's rewarded for content that people find accessible. So that is going to mean that one example I can give of this is like a concrete world, like real world example is if you have like a testing quota on like a marketing team or something, like they have to run a certain number of tests every quarter and as part of like their bonus structure or whatever. So they're being rewarded for running a quantity of tests, which you're going to find really quickly. And you do find, and I have found places that I've been employed, is that very quickly the tests stop being useful tests and they become easy tests, because the important part is not to have tests that tell you anything you really need to know. The important thing is to get enough tests done. So that means that anything that is really easy to do gets moved to the front of the test queue. As long as it can be done quickly and you can get stat sig results, statistically significant results, that gets precedence. So you get sort of this evolutionary situation where potentially very useful tests that would help you do your job better or help the company make more money or help you reach a new audience effectively, fall off the table because the resources that go to them would be more effectively spent on a rewards based model towards just getting more simple tests done. So I do think that the AI is going to fall into that same sort of trap where, because it's a rewards based model and it's giving uh, answers that maintain human attention, which is going to mean short, brief answers. Like you're saying that I have like a really concise writing style. I would bet that most questions are going to be answered in a manner very similar to what I was answering it with. Uh, very soon, especially since they've partnered with Microsoft. But that's going to be detrimental to this longer form content. What would the AI do if it was to interview itself? Oh my gosh. Oh man, the cake is a lie. Ah, love tests over any result that can be. Now that is a perfect example and literal actual example of what I'm talking about. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, dead on, exactly right. What would the AI do if it was to interview itself? I have to think a little bit about how to structure that, but that is the most interesting question I've been asked in a good long time. That'll be that could be a whole potential day of this, is just seeing what it does when put in that situation. Okay, sure thing as we move. So we're going to move this over. What we're going to do um, for writers, and I'm going to put this up front. Chat. Okay, and that's just, I'm just putting that up front so that when the tabs get all squished, I'll still be able to tell this one from the other one. All right, Control V. Oh, look at that, it actually worked that time. Okay. Control. All right. The now. And then we're going to change this to subtitle. And I don't like that that's not showing up in the outline. Why isn't that showing up in my outline? That's the whole point of, okay, fine. We'll do, oh, I see, that's my bad. We'll do heading 1. There we go. Heading 2. All right, sorry, but yeah, you are absolutely right about that. The fun thing is that it works with humans and it works with AIs. Like, I'm sure it works with rats and monkeys and everything else too. I wonder what would happen. I don't know if you've seen this. This is old viral video, and so it's these two monkeys and they're performing tasks, right? And monkey one performs a task and he gets a cucumber and he loves it. He eats it. He loves that cucumber. Monkey two performs the same task and he gets a grape, which is a much better treat for the same task. And you can watch the monkey, like monkey one looks at monkey two and is like, and then looks at the human and he's like I didn't realize that what the fuck was an emotion that a monkey could experience until I saw that monkey's face, monkey one, and he was just like, all right. Then they do it again, right? And they give him they have him perform a task. They give him a cucumber, and he chucks the cucumber right back at the researcher, like no, I'm not doing this for cucumbers. There are grapes available. And I do kind of wonder what would happen if you put like two AI models up against each other, kind of like what you were talking about with it interviewing itself, where you gave them unequal rewards, like for performing the same task. Would one AI work harder? Would the AI instead decide to be just go on strike? Would it? I don't know. Like, there's so many different directions that could go, and I'm incredibly curious as to what that would actually mean in a real world situation. Efficiently than ever before, AI can help writers produce. Okay. All right. Here we're talking about being active. We'll say already having. In most cases, I'd go with just having, but in this case, already adds a sense of urgency to it that wasn't there before. Because already, like, it makes it sound a little unexpected and a little more worthy of attention and alarm. Um, scaring people without actually scaring them. or as most people call it, marketing. This all right. We don't need to worry about that right now because we just said all that stuff. AI is going to change the way, nope, not going, is changing. That's another writing tip. Nothing should ever be going to or about to. That can just be doing. Like if there's any way you can have it just doing, just have it doing. AI is changing the way we approach writing in a number of ways. We don't need to say it in a number of ways. That's redundant too. For one, this is one of those sections that you could get rid of because it doesn't really add anything, but it does add an element of humanity to it. Here's one thing that I personally find fascinating. So see this here? This doesn't. It's putting contractions in. So one of the things that I run into with humans and lawyers, sorry to any lawyers that ever watch this, don't sue me, is that, but it's particularly, lawyers are particularly guilty of it that I work with. They get rid of contractions. And one of the amazing things is how much more casual and human and friendly you can make a piece of writing steam if you add contractions to it. But it's interesting that the AI already does that. Like it's already learned that trick. By using AI tools to automate tasks like editing, proofreading, even content creation, writers will be able to produce high quality work in a shorter amount of time. That's a little redundant towards up here, but we're not going to worry about that right now. This doesn't mean that AI is going to replace writers altogether. Altogether is a little unnerving. Like this AI is telling me it's going to be okay, and then it's like, I'm not going to replace you altogether. There'll still be a role for you. I promise. Scout's honor. The rise of AI. Again, great term, but it's already used that. The rise of AI. Is going to make good writers even more valuable. By leveraging AI, and we're going to change this from good writers to adaptable writers. And I'm 90% sure I spelled that right. There we go. It likes the word leveraging. I've seen that pop up a lot. In this case, we're going to change it to using. Leveraging is kind of a buzzword. I've found that more accessible verbs work better with people, which actually was not an easy thing for me to handle because I like long words and complicated words, and I just had to test it and see it borne out again and again and again to find that it was a lot more effective to use shorter verbs. Like if there was an opportunity to use a shorter verb instead of a longer one, it almost always had a measurable result. Um, that isn't always going to be the case, but like, you save the complicated verbs for when you really want to add your own voice or for dialogue, that sort of thing. It also comes back to the difference between how we talk and how we write. Like if you use sparingly, if you use big words while talking, you're smart. If you use big words while writing, you're kind of an asshole. In terms of perception, it wasn't like an actual judgment. I'm just saying how people perceive it. I would hate to insult my one viewer. All right. By using AI tools to improve their work, writers will be able, or writers will be able to work with AI. Now it sounds like we're working in harmony, right? Be able to work with AI to produce higher quality content that resonates with readers. In some respects, I think that may be one of the more valuable things the AI does is because it's building itself from this pool, it will, in theory, be better at reaching the average reader. I've seen some of that recently in like proprietary AI writing software that people have tried to sell to a company I work for, and I was not overly impressed with it. In fact, I think they're poor company. Both of the companies that I saw, I mean, one was trash, the other was really interesting. I think the really interesting one even is going to be in trouble with ChatGPT coming along, unless they can figure out a way to work with it, which they very well might. Of course, you almost never need to say of course. And some. There will be challenges. And I mean, you can hear that. Like, of course, there will be some challenges versus there will be challenges that come with incorporating. And that come with, we don't need to say that come with. There will be challenges incorporating AI into the writing process. Writers will see how much stronger that is, just boom, hit them. Writers will need to be willing to learn how to use these tools, new tools effectively, and be open to new ways of approaching their craft. Great sentence. And you notice I'm leaving this one, it is still wordier and more open than it could be, but changing the pace up in the middle of a paragraph like this is not a bad thing. If you hit them with a hard, like, heavy sentence, that's a pretty good time to like let them take a breath. But those who are willing to embrace the potential of AI will be able to take their writing to new heights. It really likes that, writing to new heights. You remember it had that at the end of a completely different piece of like writing that I gave it. That really one of I don't mm, which one was that? Oh, it was the slightly edited version of this one where it agreed with me after I told it how to do it. All right. Brings about an interesting thought about AI reward systems. What I know, they are pretty static numerical impacts that change parts of the model. What would happen if the AI system was more complex and multifaceted, like if the reward from an input was calculated with well, one, that seems really dangerous, but I like it. Two, I think they already sort of tipped their hand that they're doing that because when I asked about the war in Ukraine and Russia, hold on, we can just pop on over that so I'm saying it right. Where was that? That was here, right? It's bouncing a little bit. Sorry here. All right. Not that one. There we go. It was right up here. Okay. I'm aware of the conflict, blah, blah, blah. However, it's important to note that my knowledge base. Where was that? They just said something about. Oh, here we go. Each input prompt I receive can help refine and adjust my understanding of language in the world and may also contribute to the data. There we go. That was the sentence I was looking for. Additionally, if a specific topic or subject is frequently asked about, it may receive more weight and importance in the data set that I'm trained on. So that does imply that there is some extra weighting on stuff that people are asking a lot about, but I don't know if it's being, this kind of makes it sound like it might not be incorporated in real time. It might be sort of logged as something that ChatGPT 5 or whatever will weight higher in its own system. That's a great question though. An angry AI, that's all we need. With happiness or afflict the AI with anger, would it respond in a more human-like manner? So one of the topics that's come up recently in sort of my line of work is, in theory, we ought to be able to, like, the average person is not very good at writing what amounts to like marketing product descriptions, right? So having like, you're building a website, having AI that can write a lot of the content for them would be a great product. And one of the sort of the stickier uh, ethical things that we've been playing around with is do we want to, now that we've got AI, is the first thing we want to do to teach it to more effectively manipulate humans into doing something? Because that's what marketing copy is, right? It's me, for example, convincing you that you really need something that you didn't know existed about 10 minutes ago. And part of that isn't just the uh, making computers that are really good about at convincing people to give up their money. It's that uh, there's basically no fence between that and using copy to emotionally manipulate people through like political content, for example. So, ooh, the ethics of AI when it comes to like what are they? Like pathos versus logos, right? Like logic, logos versus pathos, which is like the pathology of people. The appeal to like emotion is very powerful. Now, there aren't a lot of ethical concerns with building AI that can write things that appeal to logic, because people who are logically evaluating things are almost by definition not vulnerable, whereas appeals to emotion, like everybody is stupid when they're angry. Doesn't matter how smart you are, if somebody can make you angry, they've made you stupid. So the idea of building an AI that just answers questions really well, not a lot that can go wrong with that. The idea of building AI that can answer, that can like provoke a predictable emotional response is deeply unnerving. That said, it might not be as bad as all that because, well, it'll screw over our generation. But basically, every new form of content we're introduced to, we don't have a lot of mental defenses for. But then everybody that grows up with it does. Like humans are incredibly adaptable. So like people were when the radio first, well, when the printing press first took off, like all of a sudden when people could learn how to read, like people were much more vulnerable to being manipulated by written content at first, and then they grew more suspicious of it, less likely to be manipulated by it. That the same thing, we went through the same thing with radio, we went through the same thing with television, the early days of the internet. Like there's a reason you don't see pop-up ads anymore. Like they were really effective for a while, and you see that in pretty much everything that people use to manipulate people for sales of any sort. Is there's a diminishing return. Like if you grow up with it, your brain just learns to not even look at it, not even think about it, not even care about it. Right now, we're going through the throes of everybody being like too easy to manipulate via like social media, but I imagine that that will eventually drop off too. So I expect that something like this, there'll be a sort of a rough patch where people have no defenses against it at all, and then pretty quickly after that, we'll adapt to it. Oh, more comments. A language model that has a small group of AI who can communicate with each other and who are rewarded. Different balances would be a cool thing to see. Or ones that could trick each other. Like, it would be fun to set up something with basic game theory situations. Like, if all three, if you have three AI, and all three of them agree not to do a thing, then they all get a reward. But if any one of them tries to do it, they get double the reward. But if all of them try to do it, none of them get a reward. So basically, your options are we cooperate, and all three of us get one. Uh, we One of us betrays the others, and that one gets three, or all of us try to betray the other two, and we get none. So there's really asymmetric outcomes, and to see what they do and how they evolve and react to one another. And now I really want to try that, and I'm wondering if there's a way that I could set that up. I gotta like I should be making notes of stuff on here, um, because you've had a lot of really good ideas, Orion. Uh, Dude, that's a great one. I love oh, traps, mazes. You could do all sorts of fun things. Um, Lies versus truths. So the AI has a choice to either tell the truth or lie, and if the other AI guesses correctly, they get a point. But ooh, how else would you do that? How would you make that asymmetric? If it's true and they guess true, they get 2 points. If it's a lie and it's a lie and it's a lie, if they guess lie, if it's a lie and they guess lie, they get 1 point. And if they guess wrong, they get no points. Oh, that is fascinating. All right, I got a couple friends that are programmers that I might have to talk to and see if there's a way that we could build an API that would do that because I'm really, really curious about how that would play out. I really hope that it saves the chats because there is no way that I will be able to keep up when there are like multiple people on this and coming up with ideas. I wish there were a couple more people to keep you like company and to see your good ideas. Hopefully next time I'll bug my friends into showing up, and then maybe we'll get a little bit more of a conversation going on here between the nerds in the chat. Somebody's already done something like that for not quite that complex, but for checking and recognizing ChatGPT when people are using it to write papers and stuff, uh, which means that like for a glorious like 2 week period, everybody was like having an AI write their term papers for them, and then not anymore. One thing I'm really interested with AI is like I feel like this could similar to kind of what I was talking about with writing. Like I could see a world where basically AI has the role of teacher. Like if there's a teacher in the classroom, their job is just to like facilitate things when kids get stuck or like deal with the normal child emotional breakdowns and stuff that happen, but like the actual teaching of the children is done by AIs because they're going to be able to adapt to each child's learning like status and ability and preferences, and they'll be able to um, you would hope just give them more attention one on one. Like I can see a world where even like 10 years from now, there's like 40 kids in a classroom. The AI does 95% of the teaching, and the teacher's just there as like sort of an administrator. And I think that might actually be a good thing given the teacher shortage in the country. It would also mean we wouldn't have to divide kids up into like classrooms for like the kids that are really accelerating and the kids that are like being held back a little bit or whatever. We could just like, all right, here's your peer group. Learn at your pace. Learn what you're interested in. See what you can do. When one trains a model, they can also train a model to detect it, making it more and more hard to detect. Oh dear God, you are absolutely right about that, and that is going to be a frightful arms race because I think it'll go through like 2 or 3 iterations before humans can't do it anymore at all, and we're just counting on the AIs to be doing it for us, and we have no ability to even know whether they're right. Ooh. Hmm. The other thing you have just outlined there, and I don't realize if you, or I don't know if you realize you've done it, is Probably the quickest way to train ChatGPT to beat the Turing test. Although arguably it already has, but like you iterate on that concept a few dozen times, and I think you'd be guessing. I mean, the biggest like indicator I have that this shit is coming from like a computer rather than a human is honestly how well organized it is. It's not very exciting, but it's organized really well. And organization is one of the most difficult parts of writing. I think it's one of the reasons that like writers tend to skew like more so than most other artists towards like more what I'll say is like more traditional intelligence, like that sort of like book smart. And I think it's purely because like you need to have the sort of mind that can collate and keep track of a lot of information in order to excel at it. Like you don't really have to do that with uh, like to be a painter or like even a poet really or something like that. Which is not to say that you don't have to be a lot of other things like uh, photographers. Like the spatio reasoning capabilities of some writers are not great, but like some artists are just spectacular. Like, and that is a type of intelligence. Like, I have known people that can basically look at a thing and then draw the thing, like with the the foreshortening and everything involved. At like even when we were relatively young, like I had a friend whose older brother could draw at like a semi-professional level by the time we were teenagers. Like, and like he could just look and he could understand like what like that this hand needs to be like a quarter of the screen just instinctually break things down into shapes, and most people really have to teach themselves that. Like I sure as hell did, um, but I think that this level of organization is not something you see from most people who are writing casually. Honestly, you don't even see this from most people that are writing professionally, because this is a little more organized than long form would be for me, and a little more fleshed out than an outline would be for me. Uh, and I'm a pretty big nerd, so that's saying something. These tools use natural language processing algorithms to generate human-like language based on a set of parameters or inputs. Okay. Social media posts. Yeah, easily. Oh, the other thing I'm looking forward to, big time, AI lawyers. Like you still need lawyers, but there's no way, like even right now, I don't think a human would be as good at like going through the bajillion pages of city, county, state, and national and international laws looking for every relevant piece of information and statute and what's the word I'm looking for? The precedents and all that stuff. And it would be pretty cool if, like, instead of like needing a public defender if you were poor, you were just assigned like a robot that was like top tier lawyer material. So like all of a sudden, like being broke and going to court wasn't like you know a semi guaranteed guilty verdict, and you were just like, yeah, this robot's got my back. Wish I knew how to program because I'd be making this stuff instead of talking about it. I'm right with you there, and I'm learning to program right now. I yeah, Code Academy. If you want to learn how to program, it seems pretty straightforward. Python is what I'm working on right now because that's the program that a lot of the APIs are are programmed in. And then here I'll show you. There we go. Let's see catalog. Let's go catalog Python. There we go. Did I collapse the menu or did I? There we go. All right. So you see here, like you can build on this, and I mean it's like $200 a year for like the pro version of it that has everything. But see, like build machine learning, analyze data, build chatbots, build deep learning models. So like all this stuff, you can learn how to do all this stuff in your free time for like what amounts to like $20 a month, not even $20 a month. Machine learning, AI engineering foundations right there. So I am just right here in the basics, learning how this works stuff. I do have a little bit of past programming experience because like science background. So I had to learn some things like basic MATLAB, which was the bane of my existence, and a few other things like that. But I would recommend do it. Like if you're interested in it, go for it. Especially because this is a new thing. Like you're not running really into competition, right? Like I don't know what you do for a day job, but go for it. There's so much cool stuff. There's so many cool projects that I want to do that if I can learn the programming for it. Also, once you get a little bit good at programming, ChatGPT can do a lot of that. Like I just need to get to the point where I understand whether it's giving me the right output, and then I can use it to help me program these things. And there's so many things I want to do. I've got small things. Okay, so like this was something I was trying to use like off the shelf stuff for instead of programming because I wanted to do just like a sort of fun little art project, like written word art project type thing that gets you from essentially the Big Bang, like the beginning of the universe, to like you, like how all those pieces come together to be you. And I thought it would be fun, but it was just too intensive to do the animations for it. But now, in theory, I can use AI and a little bit of programming knowledge to just blast through this thing. And I can do it in Python, so I'm not like using somebody else's third party nonsense to do it. I'm actually just doing it myself. I know the basics, and I know I'd be good at it. I just need to learn all the mechanics, commands, and yeah, that's always the thing, right? Like, yeah, I'd be great at it if I just could find the spare time to do all that. For me, like, what kind of pushed me over the edge was I feel like my job isn't going away, but it would be very beneficial to be the guy that understands how the AI works. Uh, I'm more valuable as a writer if I'm a writer that understands how to talk to the AI programs and how to program a little bit. So it's building off of what I already do. That said, I haven't really found it too challenging yet. I'm sure, I mean, you seem like a very smart individual, so I'm sure that if you just, you know, jumped in on it, you'd get there before long. And yeah, there's so many cool, like so many fun things. Like I would love to do. I really want to do the three-way game theory test between the AIs just to see how they handle it. Because that's something that you can do to some degree with animals. You could do with people, so on and so forth. I had a friend in college, so I was doing like molecular biology, biochemistry, and medical microbiology. Um, but we were looking at creating DNA scaffolds that self-assembled themselves into logic gates, which several of our advisors informed us was totally impossible and unfeasible, and somebody did about 3, 4 years ago. So if we'd stuck with that, we'd be sharing a Nobel Prize in 5 or 6 years. But also, I'd be working in a lab somewhere, and it would suck. That is not a career that involves a lot of free time. Also, if you're tall, I don't, you have to work in hoods all the time, and I swear I couldn't stand up straight for like a year after I left grad school. Um, but anyway, it would be cool to see if you could integrate that with AI, because like self-assembling using DNA, self-assembling. I don't know how much you know about AI, but there's like complementary codes, and that when the two codes that are complementary come together, they form a pretty strong bond and they twist around each other. So it's a very stable structure. It's also a very, very, very good electrical conductor. So in theory, you could get you could get cells to churn out as if they like the same way they do viruses or their own genetic code. You get them to churn out DNA, or you can build DNA codes using a machine that I believe was developed in Hokkaido, Japan, uh, of all places, which is a cold northern part of Japan. I can't remember if there's a university in mm, Sapporo, where the brewery is, that has two Nobel Prizes associated with it, which is impressive for a relatively small university. And they were either the ones that figured out how to build um, amino acid chains or nucleic acid chains. I think it might have been amino acid chains. So they figured out how to build proteins to order. Like you could just tell it what order you wanted the cysteine, the proline, the methionine, and whatever in, and then it would build it up. But then the DNA, like you can do the same thing with DNA using a different machine. Oh, let's see. Mechanics. Something's only impossible till someone does it. That's exactly right. And we are, for better or worse, living in a world of things that people were sure were impossible all of 20, 25 years ago. But anyway, yeah, so it would be really cool to be able to get those DNA strands to self-assemble into computers, but it would be interesting to see if you could interface them with some of this, what do they call it, NL whatever, NLP algorithm type stuff, which I barely understand logic gates. Um, understand might even be a strong word because now that I'm thinking back on it, I wouldn't be able to explain them to anybody. So that's something else I need to brush up on, which seems theoretically possible. You could also do cool things like if you can create gaps of exactly the right size, uh, you can essentially make molecules input, and everything that happens like at a molecular level is kinetic. Is things bumping into each other, which means it's a probabilistic outcome for any given like reaction. But you can really think of that as a um, analog to a computer program, although it's not digital in most cases. It is analog. Let's see, near term data driven content AI. Okay, writing assistance. Ooh, creative writing prompts. That would be interesting too. That's another thing I'm going to do here some night in addition to the interview thing is have a like I'll do a line of a story and then have the AI do a line and we'll build it together. I really want to see how that works because that would tie into I think you were on earlier, fan of genetics in my studies. Yeah, I like genetics a lot. It was a we understand it. I mean, this is gonna be a crazy thing to say considering I was in college like well, okay, 15 years ago now, but 15 years ago it was really there were major aspects of genetics that were very poorly understood. So it was very much an emerging field. So it was fascinating. Things were changing constantly, almost day to day. There were things I learned in like freshman year of college that were either proven not true, irrelevant, or dramatically changed by the time I hit senior year. And it's still, if you're looking at things like epigenetics, it's still a remarkably rapid change, and things are still ongoing. There are also some fun surprises, like and things that were common sense except for like human egos, like they were just coming to terms. We assumed that humans were going to have some of the most complex genomes uh, before we'd actually gotten to the point of mapping out the human genome, which happened in what 2001. April 2003. So, um, so September, April 2003, I had just turned 16, which was really great for me because I was already in college and I didn't have to ride my bike anymore. I could drive. But so this project was finished, when I was just like a nerdy little 16-year-old college student, and it was we'd assumed that humans would have this really complex genome, and we were like, oh, actually, we've only got like 45,000 genes. And they were like, actually, we only have like 35,000 genes. Actually, like, oh, actually, we only have like 30,000 genes. So we kept like pulling it down, and we discovered things like newts have like so many more genes than we do. And of course they do. Like anything like an amphibian, it's aquatic and it's terrestrial. So it's got to have like all the genes for the tadpole part of its life, all the genes for the in-between part of its life. It's got to have all the genes for surviving on land, all the genes for surviving in water. Obviously, it's going to be more complex. But a big part of genetic complexity is not just how many genes you have, it's how many variations of a particular gene you have. And humans do have quite a few of those, and they make a big difference, and they have weird interplay, and some of them can be changed by like diet, some of them can be changed by temperature, some of them can be changed by it looks like for those of us that had grandparents that lived through the Great Depression, it looks like some of the genes switched off by famine in them are still turned off in their grandchildren. So there are potential genetic effects that are not inherited in like the classical Mendelian sense, but inherited based on whether or not you are probably going to need them to survive your childhood. And I mean, they're inherited either way technically, but they can be turned on or off through a process usually through a process called DNA methylation. I did hear they are Jurassic Parking a woolly mammoth. I am over the moon about that. I'm also really, really hoping for a um, like giant ground sloths are actually what I would like to get back the most because here's the fun fact for you: avocados. So fruit, like the whole point of fruit is that animals eat it, right? And they carry the seeds with them in their stomach, and then they poop out the seeds. So, the plant makes the fruit, animals come, they eat the fruit, they carry the fruit to a nice location, and then they plop it out, they bury it, and they fertilize it. It's a really good sort of wide scale symbiotic effect in nature between plants and animals. Plants provide us stuff we need to survive. We help them get their babies places since they can't walk. Now, avocados, I don't know if you ever cut into an avocado, but the pit of an avocado is massive, right? It's like a small one is the size of a golf ball, which would be one, hard to swallow whole at all, and two, really, really hard to poop out. So it turns out that the reason avocados are the size they are is because giant ground sloths used to eat them. And, these are like 20, 30-foot animals. That's right, giant ground sloths ate it. And they would carry it with them and they poop it out. And the only reason that avocados still exist is because, um, lucky for them, they taste good to humans. So we ate them and carried the seeds and propagated them on purpose after we'd finished eating all the giant ground sloths. But giant ground sloths are awesome. They also used to be like they're like 20 foot tall. I'm assuming you know what they look like. I mean, I guess we can just in case. Megatherium. Like, look at these derpy weirdos. 20 feet tall, and they do things like they would dig burrows. Like these were burrowing creatures. So imagine something the size of a freaking elephant, bigger than an elephant, that one, looked like this, but two, dug burrows. Like, there'll just be giant caves all over the place. Um, Very cool creatures. I would love to bring them back. Also, saber-toothed tigers, which I think I might have more trouble getting people on board with, but they're just so damn cool. Like, I mean, look at that guy. It would be, yeah, I'm a little sad that, like, North America had so many cool animals and we ate almost all of them. Like, the only ones left are, like, the human-like animals, really, the ones that are, like, real generalists and can just survive anything. Like, that's the only guys that are left. Because humans got here and we're bad enough, but also there was the massive climate change at the end of the last ice age. So between the two, like, oh boy, not a lot made it through. As far as I know, there are no longer successful avocados in the wild. There's a whole song about it. I'm not gonna look it up right now, but it's a song about sloth poop that some interesting scientist lady made, where she explained it all. That's probably on YouTube somewhere. If you want song about sloth poop in your search history, you can probably find it. Ethical concerns, outsourcing writing tasks. No kidding. This is something I've considered is just literally quitting my job and going full freelance again. But this time, like, I'll have chat bots doing the lead generation, generating most of the content, and then I'm just going to be like fine tuning it. I think I could make a lot of money before people caught on, but I could be very wrong. We'll see. But honestly, I'd rather do more fun things than that. I considered doing that with like real people at one point, like because when I was a freelancer, I'd get underbid from people in India and Pakistan a lot, which makes sense. But they didn't actually have like the level of writing that like people needed for like front-facing site content. So they'd beat me for something, and then they'd come back, like the original client would come back, and they'd be like, "Hey, we passed up on your bid originally, but then weirdly, the guy that we wanted to pay 10 cents an hour to do it." Uh, didn't provide like the level of quality we were expecting. I was thinking that would be a great business model would be get in contact with some of these guys over there that are doing it and have them do most of the work and then have me like edit it and clean it up and get it to that next tier and then it would be great. I'd be able to offload a lot of the work, but they'd also still be getting more than they were originally for the task itself. So it seemed like a situation where everybody would gain. They'd be getting paid more. I'd be making more money because I was taking on more projects at the same time. Uh, but the thing that held me back there was like freelancing is really fickle, and I didn't want to be like responsible for helping these folks feed their families if like the whole house of cards tumbled in. Like I didn't want to have them in that situation. Seemed like too much pressure on top of just running your own business. In some cases, AI might be used. Speed or accuracy, data-driven content or marketing copy. I don't think they're going to be doing very. I think AI will be making a lot of really, really terrible marketing copy in the near future, which is okay because marketers already make a lot of really, really terrible marketing copy. So it's only going to matter places like where I work, where we have actual writers and designers doing the brand work. Ethical concerns. Complex and multifaceted, while there are potential risks. Yeah, see, he just keeps saying the same stuff over and over again, even though it's outlined something more, which is good because I was like, it would be disappointing if this was too easy. So we're going to put a pin on that section. You know what we're actually going to do? Nope. It's got limits. Hmm. Yeah, I doubt I was the only one to think of that for sure. And I mean, it's good on him. I mean, better than the company outsourcing those jobs. Hell, he probably paid the people he outsourced it to better than the corporation would have. I mean, hopefully, maybe not, but in any case, not surprised. I used to really like working with coders because then they do the lead generation. So they'd find the clients, and then my only job was to, you know, write the stuff that went with it. But that was a very tedious job after a while. Still going. Hang on here. Still going. Have one viewer, but they're very cool. One viewer, not one view. Oh man, they didn't find any animals. That's so weird. My girlfriend has like this weird Disney princess power when I take her out, where like she'll say she wants to see an animal, and I'll like explain why we're probably not going to see that animal, because she always wants to see something like a beaver or a porcupine or desert tortoise. That's like you see like if you spend a lot of time outside, you see like a couple in a season if you're lucky. And then I'll like explain why we're probably not going to see one. And then within like 15 minutes, we'll see one. The porcupine was the best one because we were somewhere in Montana and I was pointing out like there was this nice muddy area beside the Missouri River that had really good tracks in it. And I was like telling her what all the different tracks were, and I was like, and this one's a porcupine. She was like, oh my god, I would die to see a porcupine. I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I see porcupines like maybe like once a year, if that, and they're usually beside the road because they take forever to cross the road. But you almost never see them out like out and about. And then she's like, literally, she's like, "Oh, but what's that over there?" And there was a porcupine just like climbing out of the reeds. Like he just gone down to the river for a drink, and he was just headed back up the hill. And I was like, "Okay, it's a hell of a power." But apparently, she didn't see any animals today. She's been trying to see a Gila monster, which are another like really rare animal. Very cool animal, by the way. They only eat like once a month and they eat eggs and stuff. So like basically they come out of their burrows like once or twice a month, raid a bird's nest, go back to their burrow and then just chill for another like month. So you could be somewhere with like 30 Gila monsters and you'd only statistically you'd only see one that whole day if you sat out there looking. Hmm. AI is going to change the way we approach. You know what? I think you're actually kind of onto something here with the more of the interview approach. I think I might get better results after this. Like the outline was cool, but I think in terms of fleshing out the outline, I think giving it prompts and having a more conversational type setup might help. How do you think AI will impact writing within the next 5 years? Uh-oh. Yeah, they are known for being really tenacious and just like grabbing hold and then just not letting go. Although having seen like a couple in the wild, I have to say like anyone who has ever been bitten by a Gila monster, unless maybe like you got bit putting your foot into a boot after camping or something, absolutely deserves it because they're like booking it. Top speed is like zero point 0.5 miles an hour. They're going nowhere. They have like an amazing sense of smell and they got venom, right? So they're not in a hurry. They know everybody's gonna leave them alone. They're going for eggs. Like their prey can't run away from them. They're just like the only way you could ever get bit by one of those is if you were shoving your hand in its face. There's also never, like I looked it up, there's no recorded case of anyone dying from it except like one maybe case in like the 1860s or something. It just hurts a lot. It's supposed to be an unusually painful venom and also a really painful bite because, like I said, they eat eggs. So they've actually got, like, most lizards don't really have particularly powerful mandibles, but uh, Gila monsters are chonkers. They bite and they hold. So do chuckwallas, although they're not venomous, but they're another kind of similar, like, beefy lizard that lives out here in the Southwest. They're actually vegetarians. They're the only native to this part of the country, I think anywhere in the U.S. except technically for the invasive iguanas in Florida. They eat plants rather than insects, but they're these big old pancake dudes, and they defend themselves by, like, inflating inside of cracks and rocks, and they just stay there. But also, if you really mess with them, like, people try to catch them all the time, and they will tear chunks off. Maybe, maybe, like, in an ambush situation or somewhere like where you're like sitting down on it accidentally or something, it could happen. But yeah, they're really cool though. Like, one of the ones I saw was like, I guess he'd gone into like a cholla cactus to get at one of the bird's nests, and he had like cactus spines all like up, like stuck in his armor. Didn't seem to give a damn. Wasn't even slowing him down. They're tough, cool little critters. So I'm just imagining like sitting down on one of those and then just having to finish the hike with just like a 2 foot long 10-pound lizard just hanging from your ass cheek. Like, talk about embarrassing ways to show up to a hospital. Dude, badgers freak me out in general. One of the only animals I've ever seen in the wild that I was genuinely nervous about was a wolverine. And I was in like a pretty good position because he was like swimming and I was in a kayak, but like I was like, I'd never in my life given any thought to whether or not I could paddle a kayak faster than a wolverine could swim, and I was like, God, I hope I don't have to find out. But he was headed over to this little island where all these birds nest, so he didn't give a damn about me. He was after easier snacks. Let's see as we move forward. Let's see. Hold on one second here. Cool, cool. I might be calling it for tonight pretty soon. Like, this has been a really fun conversation though. Um, I'll give it a few more minutes, but we'll call it at 11, which is 20 minutes from now my time. Sure, as we move forward in the future. What did I want to do? Um, nope. AI will impact next 2 years or the next five or in the long term and in the long term. AI powered writing assistants, I would agree with that. The tools will become more sophisticated and integrated into our writing processes, helping us catch mistakes and improve our writing style. I got to admit, I am not at all looking forward to that. One of the first things I do whenever I'm working anywhere is I turn off the pretty much all the spell and grammar check services in Word because they are often wrong and always intrusive. And I don't think having something like joggle your elbow non-stop is going to be helpful. AI-powered algorithms will be able to analyze large data sets and create content that is optimized for search engines and targeted to specific audiences. Ooh, all right. That's going to be weird, right? Because one of the main things they're doing with the AI right now is they're using it to create search engines, right? Um, so talk about AI wars. We're going to have AIs trying to become the best search engines while other AIs are working on ways to trick them into essentially ranking content higher. And that, if it is not already ongoing, that's not like a 2 to 5 year thing. That's like a 2 to 5 month thing before that hits. Ultimately, the impact of AI on writing will be shaped by how writers choose to use the technology. That is a non-answer. Let's give it a meaner like hardball question. Like let's get a little hostile here. It's taken a lot longer. You like that? No, noticeably longer to make that response. Writing news articles, creating product descriptions. I mean, this is actually not as disruptive as they're saying. Like a lot of stuff, like a lot of sports writing is basically already done by not so much AI as it's damn near like a Mad Lib style thing. Have you ever watched any like documentaries on honey badgers? They're like crazy smart. There's one I remember, I don't remember where it was, but it was just like this honey badger, I'm sure it's on YouTube or somewhere, escape artist, and just like the ways this badger figured out how to escape his like habitat at this little South African zoo type thing and just get into the house. Like he just liked being inside with the people, and like it was hysterical. Like he'd move pieces of his like he'd move pieces of his cage, not really cage, but like habitat over because it was a wall and then buried in the wall, so it was like a recessed walled enclosure. It's pretty big, and he'd like drag stuff over and climb up it, and just adorable, fierce little creatures with an admirable level of stubbornness. Like, man, if you could put like an AI brain in a honey badger, that might be the end of human civilization right there. Like, forget like T1000 type stuff, just uplifted honey badgers, cyborg honey badgers. What style do we want our cyborg honey badger to be in? Um, let's do oil on canvas style in the tradition of Napoleonic battle portraits, Revolutionary War. We'll specify American Revolutionary War. That would be an interesting one, just because the size difference. I mean, dunk contest, I'd give it to Shaq. Anything behind the past the 3 point line, Honey Badger wins. Maybe Usain Bolt could defeat one because he's fast. Like that would be my go-to plan for dealing with a honey badger. Uh, they whiffed on the cyborg part. let's see. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, oh, I can't remember. There's a way to give prompts weight, like particular words weight. I think a plus, but I don't remember right now. Wait, where did my? There we go. All right, let's see if that works. Run away. Yeah. I mean, I'm not 100% sure it's the only way, but it's definitely the only smart way. Midjourney's been weird because it like some of these it nails so hard, and some of them it completely whiffs on, and like I haven't really been able to nail down any particular logic to it. Um, I do admit these are quite good though. Oh, there we go. This guy's looking a little computer-esque. All right. The only problem is he has the least cool armor. Oh well, we'll give him a versioning, and then we'll take out. We'll just go with oil on canvas. See if it's putting too much emphasis on the time period. Oil on canvas. But I mean, it did a great job of hitting like the oil on canvas look. Like it always nails the genre like to a T. And then it struggles with some of the other stuff, especially hands. It does not understand hands at all. All right, we'll upscale that Fremen looking fella on position 3. Honey badgers can run 19 miles an hour. Yeah, no kidding. 19 miles per hour. Um, yeah, like you would need to be Usain Bolt. The real problem with that is like how far can they run that fast? Because like really fast distance runners run like 14 miles per hour. So like humans can sprint fast, like a fast human can sprint faster than 19 miles an hour, but we've got like half a mile because before we are flat on the ground. And that honey badger, he's just plugging along. All right, I'm going with upscaling 3 again. Mm. Oh well, hasn't actually bothered to upscale him yet. That must take a lot more resources. Okay, what did they say about fear? It's unlikely to completely replace human writers. Well, that's comforting. There will always be a need for creative and nuanced writing that only humans can provide. Additionally, AI tech advances, there may be new opportunities for writers to collaborate with AI tools and leverage. That's what I'm really looking forward to. Like, there's so many fun projects that I've wanted to do that, like, are an investment of time and effort that's so far in advance of what I can do as, like, a side project that AI suddenly puts right within reach. Yeah, but but would you really want to find out whether you could sprint longer than Honey Badger? Like you're already worrying about faster. You're like, how long can I hold this speed? How long can I hold on? I maybe if there were like 10 of us and one Honey Badger, I'd be down with it because then the odds are like, you know, 1 in 10 anyway. You just gotta hope that the Honey Badger doesn't decide that it hates you in particular. It's just like an equal opportunity little son of a bitch. Um, but uh, whew, pretty scary. Writers may worry about AI. How? What are a few ways humans can collaborate? Human writers. Let's pop back over here, see what we got. Oh, hey, that's turned out pretty cool. He's even got a weird little crest there. That's interesting. I like this guy better though. This guy says Honey Badger Cyborg to me. He's even got like some advanced cyborg arms so that he can claw you even more effectively. We are going to absolutely just. Oh, I love that guy. You gotta hope you don't have to be the slowest person in the group, but like my uncle's a wildlife biologist. I was joking about that with my one about like with mountain lions and like trail running with a couple of my friends. I was like, yeah, I just don't have to be the slowest. He was like, they don't go for the slowest, they go for the smallest. So like you know your criteria might not be the same criteria as the honey badger's criteria for who's on the menu. All right. Well, I don't think we're gonna top an awesome cyborg honey badger tonight. So that might be a good stopping point. But dude, thank you very much for tuning in and sticking around and making this a lot of fun because it would have been pretty boring sitting here talking to myself. Well, okay, I would have been pretty interested in just nerding out here, but way, way better with company and awesome ideas. I hope I see you again. If I don't, do you learn that programming? Go for it. Because you have a lot of really cool ideas. It would be awesome to see you doing a bunch of stuff. I want to come back here and see you have a stream with I don't know whatever. Oh, awesome! Thanks for the follow. But yeah, let me know if you end up doing anything with this. Maybe we can showcase some of that too. All right. Well, you have a good night. I'm going to end the stream as soon as I figure out where the button to end the stream is.